So what is this issue that Pep might be facing? Well, if you are such a possession-oriented team, you cannot afford to have any player who is a distinct weak point in the build-up play, especially not in these first couple of phases where the opposition press is likely to be highest, especially from deep situations. It's a big reason why in prior seasons, Pep was willing to include players who are weak without the ball for the on-the-ball traits that they brought. But it seems Pep's patience has worn thin, with Ederson potentially on the way out due to these shot-stopping issues, with Trafford stepping in instead. It's fair to say his short decision-making looked shaky at times when under pressure, with City splitting their centre-backs and having Gonzalez and Reinders looking to provide the options, but they were often picked up by Paulinho and Betancourt, while Sarr or Johnson would push high to support Richarlison in the press. This, of course, culminated in the game-changing second goal, as under minimal pressure, Trafford opts for the central pass to the man under pressure, leading to the concession. But it also impacted the way that City were building up from deep, as Trafford was a lot more willing to go long consistently from the goal kick, with Haaland pushing right up near the box to get into a goal-scoring position almost instantly. There's nothing wrong with this inherently, and we've seen City have a lot of success from the more direct route when Ederson was in goal. But today it did seem like it was done as a way to avoid going short at times rather than a way to hurt the opposition. All of this also makes the links to Donnarumma slightly puzzling, as he's also not renowned for his ball-playing ability. So while it might just be a case of early nerves for Trafford, this position is worth keeping an eye on for City. But generally in open play, City were opting for a 3-4-3 shape, but unlike prior seasons where Pep's more structured positionalism was at its peak, the four-man midfield had a little bit more freedom, but most often ended up as a diamond. Spurs, in response, like so many teams, were looking to defend in a compact 4-4-2, with Sarr and Richarlison being the front pairing. And similar to our recent video on Bayern versus Leipzig, it meant that the space for City in possession was often just outside the narrow front two. This could be especially dangerous when Johnson was drawn into narrower positions, either through a centre-back drawing him high when it was the goalkeeper who was the third man, or higher up in open play when Lewis began to move infield, he often drew Johnson. But the effect was the same, with room opening up in this region, often with Turkey looking to drop into this zone. But Spurs were well prepared and incredibly aggressive in dealing with this issue, and early on in the encounter, the centre-back, often Van der Ven, would drop with Turkey from the tip of the diamond all the way to this zone, to limit the progressive space that Turkey had. But with City potentially having so many dangerous runners in behind like Marmoush and Haaland, having a centre-back this far out of position was far from ideal. So Frank adapted, and whenever Lewis or Turkey were looking to receive in these zones, Spence was given the license to pass on Bob and aggressively press the receiver, with the back three shifting across, and this was quite effective, particularly if you compare it to the approach that Leipzig, for example, took in their encounter against Bayern, when they were also defending in a 4-4-2. Where we saw Bayern men often able to get space outside the block fairly easily. But where City did look like they could cause Spurs a lot more issues was when they attacked through the centre. When Aït-Nouri was on the pitch, he was more dynamic than Ake, often pushing up the flank or occasionally inverting into the midfield, leaving just a back two in the build-up. But once Ake was on, it was often more of a back three in the build-up, leaving the midfield to deal with the progression for City. And while Spurs for the most part were great defensively, especially with a front two that was energetic and willing to press the 2 to 3 men for City, there were still glimpses of hope for the Blues because of that four-man midfield in staggered lines, which meant that when Paulinho or Betancourt were drawn higher up the pitch, if Turkey was found between the lines, he had the potential to turn and find his teammates in dangerous positions higher up the pitch.
And that's the tactical blueprint behind Manchester City's Champions League success. From Pep's surprise diamond to Stone stepping into midfield, and the relentless positional play, this team isn't just winning, it's rewriting the tactical playbook. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe for more elite tactical content, and let me know in the comments which moment defined City's dominance for you, and who should we analyze next. Thanks for watching, and remember, tactics aren't just theory. They're the rhythm behind every great performance.